Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to DCUO Online. I am, of course, Trex, and it's another opinion, kind of like another look at stuff. I just don't know what to really call this, but Spytle came onto the developer discussions and brought about changes to the vote to kick function. Okay, so we remember that last week, I think it was actually about a week, that they actually took off the vote to kick option. They disabled it to give it a little bit more, to give us pretty much a test. They're testing to see what could really be changed with it. And honestly, I was really waiting to see what these results were, and luckily we were able to get the results. So now, and before I even get into the actual thread, let me just talk about this a little bit. When they first announced it, it was a crazy Thursday. Yeah, it was last week. It was just last week. It was a crazy Thursday. All this cool stuff was coming on. And then they said, hey, we're going to disable vote to kick. We're going to drop the deserter penalty. Cool. Going to be good. But now, through the whole time, people made threads begging them not to change the vote, not to disable this, not to do it. People talk about the abuse of it, where, hey, people like this league, I was just that extra guy in the league and I just got kicked for no reason because they wanted to bring their buddy in for the last run, or that they were undergeared and people were just being obnoxious and kicked them, or it was a fact that a raid just felt that that person was underperforming and kicked them anyways. So there were multiple stories on the forums in the Gotham City, all over the place, that were talking about basically their stories about this. They're telling their stories, the good, the bad, and actually there's nothing really in between. But they were voicing themselves, as you should do on the forums, about not to do this. But of course the devs still did it. And it wasn't just because they weren't listening, it's like they already had this plan, and they expected to hear back from people on the forums. They even listened to people on Twitter and even on Facebook. Right? Who uses Facebook? I do. I'm just kidding. So they looked at all across the board, all their social medias, on the forums, to see all these different stories. And then, boom, they disabled it. It was just disabled. Done. So it was disabled, and so they begun their testing on their end. They went through and saw how many people were actually using the function, if it was really a deterrent to people playing the game, to completing their instances. So I got the stuff right here. So here's the goal of the test. I'll actually read this paragraph. I'm going to try and skim through this a little bit and try and get to the nitty-gritty stuff. So the goal of the test and its goal were really quite simple. It was an attempt to capture snapshots of kick behavior, or to try and log instances of justified or unjustified kicking. It wasn't an attempt to find all kinds of census information, so we could create some over-engineered and ultimately flawed system that players find ways to circumvent despite all the rules in place. But I can see that. The vote to kick is not perfect, to say the least. In any other game for vote to kick, it's not a perfect system. There are going to be some flaws with it. Basically, human flaws. It's basically all down to human flaws. So anyways, the results of the test were this. They looked at how many people were actually logging into the game and completing instances, and also seeing how many people were actually dealing with the kicking or all that stuff, and see if it was actually deterring them actually completing the instances. They looked at on multiple scales, and this is basically where it came from. They also compared the weeks that they had test open, that people were on test server. They also tested when the weeks that they were on live as well. So they also felt that they wanted to make sure that they also pretty much gave us right here that, say right here, for the people that felt victimized by abusive kicking and felt the system should be removed, they were justified. It happened. They saw it. They saw it in their data. It's there. Then also for the people that were worried about getting stuck with undesirable players, should the system be removed? They were also justified. It was basically every griefing that every player had. They even said the word in the forum post. It was justified. They know. That's why they did this experiment. That's why they did this test, to figure out what could change. Now, here's the information. Here's the bottom line of the results here. Comparing our test week to the week before, the number of people who completed content was 1% more during our test week. Comparing our test week to 2 weeks before, the number of people who completed content was 1% more during our test week. So the data itself, population, instances run, etc., were essentially the same. The differences was negligible. There was basically no difference. People still completed their content. This test pretty much proved that the world didn't end. The game was still running. People were still playing their content. Now, I give that big hoorah. But people are still going to be griefers. They're going to have the griefers. They're going to be the griefers. And everybody's going to have their own issues because, of course, once again, humans are flawed. It's the human characteristic is the flaw that is in this system. But as they saw in their testing, that people still ran their stuff. The content still kept getting run. People were completing it. And true, they might have had a little bit of issues with it. But, I mean, and trust me, I've seen the stories. I've read the forums as well. People not participating. I mean, every person that complained about it, you're all justified. Devs aren't calling you liars. Devs are not saying, oh, this guy was not doing that. This or such and such is not happening. No, it's happening. The devs know this. They see it now. And they've always seen it. Now the test actually proves it. So, what are they doing? Well, they have Spytle came out with a couple of features that they're looking into. Nothing really concrete. This is really, in my eyes, just throwing out some ideas that they're looking into actually performing. So, and I'll say this paragraph as well. Before I go into this, please rest assured that we understand that these issues very well, that we realize some of what we detail below has a worst case scenario or what ifs attached to it. No system is perfect, and we find that something simple but reasonable will go a lot further than something complex and cumbersome. Also consider how these work together. I will explain after I read about them. That's basically the conclusion about how actually, combining them and having a good old kumbaya moment with all these features. So the first thing is a little UI change. So, as Spytle even said, it's kind of a no-brainer. Adding, when a person is getting kicked, they don't know. They don't know they're getting kicked until you see that load screen and you're just like, what? Did the game go down? I didn't. What happened? And you're all of a sudden back in the Watchtower or the Hall of Doom or wherever you were requesting at the time. And you're just like, did I just get kicked? What? Why did I get kicked? And you just start questioning your whole validity as a player. If you guys see my streams and you saw that one time it happened, yeah, I'm still dumbfounded. Just dumbfounded. So it's more or less a UI representation, a UI notification, so we actually know what's going on. Like change the kick icon, make it look like a distinct icon, in fact. Change it to a literal foot, giving something to boot. And if I see something given to boot, I'm definitely going to go with I think it was an old Mighty Python. I don't think it was a Mighty Python, but it's like, boot to the head. That was a classic. If you actually watch Phoenix Wright, there's a little AMV about that. That was actually really cool. And also change the color to something that draws attention. We're thinking red. Yeah, red's kind of like that. Oh, danger, Ray Robinson. And then also the reorder the options. The button will default to no instead of yes, because sometimes you can accidentally vote to kick someone and you don't really mean to, and that's so much of a problem. That shouldn't happen. So it's going to default to no instead of yes. So default to no will give you a chance. It's like, are you sure you really want to do this? Are you really want to be that guy? You want to be that guy? Okay, you're going to be that guy. Now, another thing as well is, like I said, the person who's getting voted does not have any indication whatsoever what's going on. I would like to know what I'm getting kicked for, if anything. I mean, give me a drop-down menu or something. Yeah, that's right. I'm asking for a drop-down menu where I can get like a text or something, like in a mail. Just like everyone who votes needs to you vote yes, another drop-down box. Like, why? Why is this person getting kicked? And honestly, I don't want to. That actually gives a thought. If you actually add a drop-down menu or something, you also get the data from the actual player. And the player could actually be that stupid player and just go like, oh, the guy sucked. Or the person voting could actually be a nice person and probably, or just, it gives feedback to the devs on why this person was kicked. Like underperforming, just like, you don't even have to type anything. Just give out random drop-down issues or something. It's kind of basically what we use in MOBA games. The MOBA games, when you want to report someone, you have a drop-down list on what is like leaving AFK. Huh? AFK? That could be a thing. But you really, you leaving AFK, harassing, you can look at those options. And on the MOBA side, you're looking at those options for the CS people on the other end of those MOBA games like Riot or Hi-Rez. You're looking at them to handle that player. But in the vote system for MMO of like DCUO, if you have something like AFK, it's not really something that the CS need to look at. It's basically giving information to the developers. It's like, all right, well, we're going to look at this data. How many people were reported for AFK? And you get a whole list, and you get a number of people. And it gives you, it might give them some information that they might be able to handle better than me. But if you're going to vote yes, then you can just give me a drop-down menu and just like select AFK, harassing, bad DPS. I don't know. But a drop-down menu would be nice. Another feature that we're looking at is the ignore feature. Now, we all know the ignore feature, and we all use the ignore feature. The ignore feature is basically, in-game right now, it's you just ignore that person in chat. You can still play with that character. You can still play with that person if you randomly queue up and you're going to see them there. It's like, oh, great, this guy. You're not going to see his chat, but you'll still see him. And it's going to be an eyesore. Sore. So, the ignore feature is not as comprehensive as it needs to be right now. Imagine if ignore actually prevented you from being placed in content with someone you don't want to play with. That really should have been what ignore should have been. But anyways, it could include anything from offensive behavior to skill level. It's entirely up to you on why to place someone on ignore. But doing so will prevent you from ever crossing paths with them again. And these are the elements that they're looking at here. Having someone on ignore list will prevent you from ever being put in an instance with them. Yes, that's technically what ignore should have been to begin with. First come, first serve. This basically means if, say, myself and I'll actually use my buddy Soar on the PlayStation side, because, Soar is awesome. So if I have Soar on ignore and we both queue at the same time, or if he queues first before me and his instance pops and we're in the same queue for that set instance, he's going to go in first and I'm going to have to just wait for the next group. That's basically what it is, so I don't have to be partnered up with that. Now, if I queued up first and then I would be able to go in first and he would have to wait. That's basically where it is, first come, first serve. So whoever's in the queue first takes precedence when determining who goes into the instance. Now, here's a kicker that I really like about this. The account to account. All right, change the current system, which is character to character. Right, that's character to character. I can ignore Sora all day long, but to be more broadly applied, in short, if you don't like this person, you don't have to play with any of their characters. So this basically means that I have Sora on ignore. I ignore that character Sora and the rest of his account. I ignore the entire account altogether. Now, honestly, the account might as well just be brought basically to that, because if I want to play with Sora, I'm not ignoring Sora the character. I'm ignoring Sora the player. And I know I'm using Sora as an example, but I love Sora. I could never ignore him. And he better not ignore me either. You better not ignore me, Sora. You better not. Okay? Just don't. So now it comes into a really neat, basically what I feel is one of the cool things about this post that he goes into a lot of detail with is the vote kick cooldown. Now, there are still some questions about this, but right now there is a cooldown on the kicking. We don't know the time, but it is instance-based and set to a meager 30 seconds. Okay, so I apologize. I should have read the complete sentence. Finished it. My bad. We will change the cooldown to be specific to each player because we want there to be personal accountability and consequences on both sides of this coin. The system allows us to achieve that. So, 1, each person will have an individual cooldown. Myself, Soar, Radium, and Super Patriot, all 4 of us. We each have our own cooldown, okay? So let's say initiating a vote kick activates this cooldown whether the vote succeeds or not. So if I start it, I'm already on cooldown. Voting in favor of a kick activates the timer whether the vote succeeds or not. As far as I can tell from that statement, that if I initiate it and then Soar and Radium accept it, they're on cooldown. And so your Patriots just kicked. Voting to oppose a kick does not activate the timer. And this includes abstaining. If you don't know what abstaining means, that means that you do not vote. You're pretty much neutral. You're me in a vote situation. It's like, I really don't want to vote kick this guy. I mean, he's trying his best. I'm just going to let the timer run out. That's basically what abstaining is. So, and then cooldown timers for supporting and initiating are separate values that can be tuned individually. So, as an example, I started the vote kick. I'm on a 5-minute cooldown of kicking. I can't kick for 5 minutes. Voting in favor of, 5 minutes. Voting in, let's see. So I'm the starter, so I do 5 minutes. Soar and Radium support it. Let's say that they're on 3 minutes. All right, so they're on a 3-minute cooldown. This is all example or hypothesis, whatever. Hyperbole? Nah, that's not hyperbole. And then link dead characters do not cause the vote kick cooldown timer to activate. No duh. This link dead people. If you're link dead, let's do this. You have a 5-minute grace period. 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes to boot up a computer and boot the game back up on PC. PlayStation, 5 minutes should be doable, right? I mean, right? Yeah. But I give a 5-minute grace period with link dead people. I give 5 minutes, and after that 5 minutes, if you don't come back, I gotta kick you. So I like to make that my standard. And then when on cooldown, you can still vote if someone else initiates a kick. So this is where the different values comes in. And this is basically all what I can gather from this, because I'm recording this after I've read some of the posts, and it might have been posted by the time I'm still doing this. So when on cooldown, I initiated, so I'm on a 5-minute. Soar and Radium, they're on 3 minutes. So their 3 minutes are up, and they have to kick someone else. They can kick someone, they can start it, and I should be able to still vote. I should be able to still vote. Now, does that mean that my timer, if I'm at 1 minute, does my timer get reset to 3 minutes, or do I get 3 minutes added to my 1 minute? That's what we have to think about, and that's where hopefully someone watches this video and trying to maybe answer it in like the comments, or maybe linking it to the forums or something. I don't know, but that's something to think about. Though it's like, because I'm still on 5 minutes, I have a minute left. Their time is up, and they start. Soar is now on his 5 minute, and if I vote in favor of, do I get a 3 minute added to my thing, or do I get time added, or do I get a time restart? Where in our example, do I get 3 minutes added, making it 4 minutes now, or do I get 3 minutes total, so I get 2 minutes added to my time to make it to 3? It's either add or just basic down. Might be basic just to stop with the math, because I don't know who's really going to time this kind of stuff. Are we going to get a visual UI if we do the voting for the cooldown? Like if we get the boot icon above us, will we have that icon to show that we can't kick anymore? We have to wait for that timer to go away? That's a good question, Trex. Good question. So also, the vote kick cooldowns persist while zoning. So if we get done with Themyscira Divided, and I still have 2 minutes left, and we queue into the next one, and we go into the next instance, we go into a raid or something, we go into a Halls of Power raid, boom, or even Thrones, we go into Thrones, boom, I still have 2 minutes on my cooldown. It's going to persist per zone. The vote kick cooldowns decrement while offline. So the cooldown duration is from the time the vote was initiated and is not relative to time in game. So, there you go. Cooldown duration is from the time the vote was initiated, not relative to game time. So I could have made the kick, got done with the instance. I got 2 minutes left. I can be off the game for 2 minutes and I can come right back and I'm back. I'm able to go back on. So it's not relative to the game time. It's basically on real time. That's really the only way it really needs to be, right? Right? Yeah. So that's really it in closing. These are the link to the forum post is in the description below, so you can leave your comments here in the video, or I actually recommend clicking the link in the description of the video to go to the forum post. The devs may watch this video, and I thank you a lot for that. But they're really going to really listen to your voice on the forums. So you can make a comment down here all you want, but if you want the devs to listen, if you guys want the devs to read it, you need to make the post on the forums. And don't make a comment and a forum post of the same thing. I don't want to read that. I don't want to read twice. Stop making me read twice. It's not nice. It's just not nice. But I really just glanced over the forum post. You can head over to the forum post. You can actually head over to Spytle's post and read the entire thing in its entirety to try and get a little bit more information about it. And I hope I was able to explain it just a tad bit better for you in case you didn't want to read. But honestly, everyone needs to read. Just not a lot, you know. I mean, the brain can only handle so. God, my reader friends are going to kill me. So, if you guys have any questions or anything, you can tweet them at me on my Twitter at ThisIsTrex, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Trexlight. All the links are in the description of the video, so definitely check it out. And thank you all so much for watching, and please don't kick me. Don't kick me anymore. That's not nice.